State-owned enterprises, otherwise known as state-owned companies or government-owned entities, play a significant role in a country's economy, especially in developing countries. If managed properly, these state-owned enterprises can help stimulate and improve economic growth. In this video, we will explain, with examples, what state-owned enterprises are, as well as other factors affecting these types of government-owned entities, including some of the benefits as well as disadvantages of these entities. Welcome back to Public Administration 101, proudly brought to you by Kano Consultants. For professional advice you can trust. As indicated in today's video, we will explain what state-owned enterprises are. We will also discuss the difference between state-owned enterprises and government departments, as well as with privately owned corporations. We will also list some of the benefits and disadvantages of such government-owned enterprises. Now, let us get into today's video. As an introduction, let us explain what a state-owned enterprise is. A state-owned enterprise, otherwise referred to as an SOE, is a body formed by the government through legal means, so that it can take part in commercial activities. Essentially, state-owned enterprises are business ventures, with full or partial government ownership, or are solely or largely sponsored by the government. These type of entities are primarily established to indulge in commercial affairs on behalf of the government. Furthermore, these government-owned or government-controlled entities usually drive economic growth while preserving public interest. Sometimes, state-owned enterprises are formed out of urgency on the part of the government through what is known as corporatization, which allows the entity to act as profit-making bodies. In many cases, such state-owned enterprises are established to meet the goals that the government had in mind. However, technically speaking, they operate as commercial bodies. Governments, often in developing countries, create state-owned enterprises in areas of the economy where economic development is lacking, and where government aims to grow and improve such an area of the economy. This is the case in Brazil and Argentina, which have respectively seen good growth in oil exploration and in telecommunication. The ownership structure of a state-owned enterprise may differ from one entity to another, and even from one country to another. However, the basic premise is that the government assumes full or partial ownership, or even full or partial funding, or full or partial control, of such state-owned enterprise. This state-owned enterprise is then usually allowed to take part in specific activities. You may be curious, what makes a state-owned enterprise different from privately owned companies? State-owned enterprises are also called government-owned corporations, so they can easily be confused with what most people know as private companies, whose shareholding is owned by private individuals. State-owned enterprises should also not be confused with public companies, the shares of which are offered to the public and traded on the open market through a stock exchange. From a legal point of view, many state-owned enterprises can be considered business entities in their own right, which provides them with rights that come with being a business enterprise. They are required to abide by all the regulations and laws governing their operation and conduct. Otherwise, the law will hold such enterprises, or their directors, liable for any irresponsible actions. So, how do state-owned enterprises differ from government departments? Let's start with the attributes of state-owned enterprises. They are established with public funds to provide essential services. Management is usually accountable to the board of directors. They draw up their own budgets. They spend their capital and other funds according to the discretion of their management and the board of directors. They usually do not depend upon parliamentary consent and decisions by the government treasury for their funding. They make their own personnel arrangements and are not normally subject to strict supervision and control of state departments. Depending on the laws of the country, and the terms of the state-owned enterprises. Some of the listed attributes may be even stricter or even relaxed, depending on the country or the rules governing such state-owned enterprises. We will now look at how these characteristics differ from those of state departments. Government departments are organizational units used to perform a specific service or a group of similar services. For example, education by the Department of Education. State departments are responsible for implementing public policies. They are also responsible for providing physical, social and administrative services, or public services to meet the needs of the public. These government departments are headed by public administrators who are tasked with the day-to-day management of the department and tasked to implement government policies, as well as ensuring that daily functions are performed by appointed government officials, including the preparation of budget proposals to be included in the national budget. Ministers, who are appointed by the President, are the political heads of state departments. State-owned enterprises are a common feature around the world, and they can be found in countries such as the United States, India, China, Norway, and South Africa, to name just a few. Let us look at some examples of these state-owned enterprises from various countries around the world. But before we do that, please make sure that you check out our other videos on public administration under this channel. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content. You can also support the channel by joining our exclusive channel membership community by clicking on the Join button below. When you join, you get a number of exclusive benefits, such as early access to our videos, as well as our uploading schedule. You can also suggest new topics we should cover for future videos, and exclusively chat to our creators. Now, let's get back to today's video, where we will discuss some examples of state-owned enterprises which can be found in various countries. Let's start in the United States with mortgage companies, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, which are some of the most recognized government-sponsored enterprises. These two entities are federally backed home mortgage companies created by the United States Congress. Their mandate is to buy and guarantee mortgages issued through lenders in the secondary mortgage market. In India, a state-owned business is known as a public sector enterprise, or a PSE, or a public sector undertaking, abbreviated to PSU. Here is a list of some of the public sector enterprises in India. Some of these public sector enterprises were set up by the Indian government to break the vicious circle of poverty and underdevelopment of the economy. The Indian government also nationalized certain key industries. A number of these Indian public sector enterprises also serve critical functions of furthering the socio-economic objectives of the government, as well as ensuring stability in the prices of key products and commodities. In Norway, the government maintains large ownership in key industrial sectors, which are concentrated in natural resources and strategic industries such as the strategic petroleum sector, hydroelectric energy production, aluminum production, as well as the largest Norwegian bank, the DNB, and as a telecommunication provider. The government controls around 35% of the total value of publicly listed companies on the Oslo Stock Exchange, with 5 of its largest 7 listed firms partially being owned by the state. When non-listed companies are included, the state has an even higher share in ownership, mainly from direct oil license ownership. Norway's state-owned enterprises comprise around 9.6% of all non-agricultural employment, a number that rises to almost 13% when companies with minority state ownership stakes are included. This is the highest among OECD countries. China is reported to have over 150,000 state-owned enterprises, of which 50,000 are owned by the central government, and the rest by local or provincial governments. Chinese state-owned enterprises, both central and local, account for 30 to 40% of the total gross domestic product of the country, and about 20% of China's total employment. In many other countries, especially in the West, the number of state-owned enterprises is much smaller, normally in the single digits. According to the Fortune Global 500 list of the year 2020, 117 of the global top 500 companies are based on the Chinese mainland, and 91 of those are state-owned enterprises. To put it into perspective, there were 121 companies from the United States in the Fortune Global 500 list in the same year. However, none of them were government-owned. In South Africa, there are about 128 state-owned enterprises and other public institutions. These range from the public broadcaster, public transportation systems, utilities, postal services, and some regulators. One of these state-owned enterprises includes the South African-based power utility, Eskom, which is reported to be the 11th largest company in the world in terms of electric generating capacity, and it is a state-owned enterprise of the South African government. State-owned enterprises play an important role in South Africa's economy. They form part of the country's growth and development strategy, aimed at diversifying the economy and providing quality services and infrastructure that supports development. State-owned enterprises also represent an important revenue stream for the government. The importance of state-owned enterprises in South Africa is compounded by the fact that they tend to be concentrated in strategic sectors, including infrastructure and utilities. For example, air and rail transport, energy and water supply, broadcasting, telecommunications, which in some cases perform competitively when compared with the private sector. In this next section of the video, we will discuss some of the benefits of having state-owned enterprises, and then touch on some of the disadvantages of a state-owned entity. Let's start with the benefits of having state-owned enterprises. State-owned enterprises control certain strategic sectors of the economy. This means that they are established to assist the government to control certain strategic sectors of the economy. There are certain industries which, if not monitored and controlled properly, could pose serious risks to the public. A good example is the atomic energy industry. It is therefore imperative that the state owns and controls such industries in order to make sure operations do not pose any risk to the public. State-owned enterprises also provide very essential services to the people at cheaper and affordable rates. For example, electricity and water are some of the essential services that state-owned enterprises may produce for the people. If such services are left solely in the hands of private enterprises, then consumers might end up paying a great deal of money for it, since the private enterprises have a sole aim of making profit. Some state-owned enterprises are established not just for the purpose of making a profit. Therefore, they are able to provide services at a cheaper rate than private enterprises. State-owned enterprises also protect consumers from being exploited by private enterprises by offering consumers with an alternative. Another benefit that a country may derive from state-owned enterprises is the fact that they are able to create jobs for the people. Now, let us look at some of the disadvantages of state-owned entities. Some state-owned enterprises rely heavily on government funding, which puts an increased burden on taxpayers. There can be high levels of corruption in state-owned enterprises. This is especially common in many underdeveloped and developing economies where proper financial management is lacking. Bribery and corruption is also more rampant. State-owned enterprises are sometimes plagued by too much political interference and control. Negative work attitude by workers is another problem associated with state-owned enterprises. Many workers regard state-owned enterprises as something which does not belong to them, so they handle it with negative work attitudes, such as laziness and dishonesty. Since it is not their business, they do not care what happens to it. This negative work attitude, that is heavily seen in state-owned enterprises, is one of the major reasons many of these enterprises not doing well. In conclusion, state-owned enterprises form part of the backbone of many countries, especially in the developing world. And if managed properly, they can help spur economic growth. As previously indicated, state-owned enterprises may play an important role in exploiting a country's resources and managing strategic economic sectors. State-owned enterprises can also generate significant revenue for the state, enable a government to exercise greater control over the sector, help improve local technologies and skills, or even manage exposure to certain risks. Most state-owned enterprises are established to generate a profit. However, not all of them are able to make such profits. For example, the U.S. Postal Service is reported to have incurred losses for a considerable number of years at a time, while many state-owned enterprises are allowed to operate under similar circumstances as privately owned corporations. Those that are vital to the government often receive bailouts to keep them going. In this case, such state-owned enterprises cost the government a lot of money to run and do not generate a return on investment. It is still not clear whether all state-owned enterprises offer the same benefit to a country's economy. Nevertheless, there are success stories around the world, such as in China and in Norway. However, countries such as South Africa have not been that lucky, and have fallen short in achieving the same level of success when compared to similar countries. We've come to the end of this video on state-owned enterprises. So, thank you for watching. Please take time to check out these other videos on public administration and public finance under our channel, where we discuss various topics relating to public administration and public management, as well as the management of the public sector, including the running of government. Also make sure that you subscribe to our channel, and remember to like this video, and also to leave us a comment below this video. You can also continue the conversation by following us on social media at ConsultKano, or use the hashtag ConsultKano. Until next time, check out this video. Thank you again for watching. Kano Consultants. For professional advice you can trust.